Bynum felt like such home to me. And I grew up on a dairy farm, and as most kids growing up, we belonged to the Scouts. I had 5 sisters and 1 brother, and I had 4 younger sisters, Amy, Tammy, Mary, Lydia. We never said one name without saying all of them together. And I was the middle child, and my brother was part of the Boy Scouts. And the Boy Scouts, they got to go on winter camping trips. They got to go to the, jamboree. They got to do all kinds of, hikes. And we Girl Scouts, I was a member of the Girl Scouts for about 3 years. And in that 3 years, we only went on 1 camping trip. And we planned it for 3 months. And it ended up, my dad and my Uncle Perry used to take us on camping trips all the time. And to be honest, it really wasn't a camping trip because we slept in cabins at the Girl Scout camp. And we slept in bunk beds. And we ate lunch in the dining hall. And it had taken us 3 months to plan this. Well, we like to say that the Boy Scouts, their motto is be prepared. And as far as we were concerned, and the leaders we had, the Girl Scout motto was prepare. Just prepare. So I convinced my mom and dad that I wanted to take my younger sisters camping. Go out on the farm and pitch the tent and actually sleep outside under the stars in sleeping bags. And they agreed. My dad said, well, it's okay as long as you stay inside of the house. And their farm was, went way, way, way up the hill, all the way to the top, up to the cemetery. And he says, go up to the top of the pasture hill where you can still see the porch light. And he said, we'll, tuck you in at night and come back in the morning and make sure you're all right. But you and your sisters can spend the night out, camping on the farm. So we get up there and we're sitting around the little, campfire that we had made. We sing songs to each other and we roast marshmallows. I tell a ghost story or two. My younger sisters, Amy is like 3 years younger than I am, and then Tammy's a year younger than her, and Marianne's 2 years younger than that, and then Lydia. So it's like if I was like 10 at the time, Amy was like 7, Tammy 6, Marianne 4, or Lydia 3, and so it was like. So they were still little. They were still pretty young, and the oldest of them was only about 7. And so we get tucked into the tent there and zip it up. And the only thing was, there's hearing all kinds of noises, crickets, and you could feel the mist coming down and laying on the mountain. And, we lived right near the parkway, near the Blue Ridge Parkway, only just maybe 10 miles away. So we're way, way, way back up in the hills there. And you could there's something about the mountains, about the nighttime, and when the katydids start singing and the fog, settles. It's like a blanket. It's so quiet. It's like you're in a bubble, this place. And we were up there in the mountain, on the side of the mountain, hearing the hoot owls and the coyotes howling off in the distance, and the katydids and the crickets, and the mist just rolling in across the valley. It was really peaceful and really beautiful. Well, finally, about 1 o'clock in the morning or so, we finally all get to sleep. And I wake up an hour or so later, and there's something stomping around the tent. It was like big. I could feel it, coming up through my bones from the ground. Whatever it was really, really, really big. And then all of a sudden I realized there was something else on the other side of the tent snuffling around it. And I thought, oh my, it's bears! 2 bears has found us! And whatever it was heavy and it was big, and they was snuffling at the edge of the tent and making smacking noises, and I thought, oh my word, here, I've got my little baby sisters out in the tent, in this little thin nylon tent, and there's bears out there, and because like I said, we was right near the park and right near the up in the woods. There's bears through there all the time. And I thought, oh my Lord, them bears is gonna rip this little tent open, and it's gonna get in there, and it's gonna massacre me and my baby sisters and my poor mama and daddy. Tomorrow morning ain't gonna find nothing but a bloody mess. Oh, maybe a little scrap of tent fabric or. And then I realized we weren't camping alone. Our dog Prince, he was a German Shepherd, and we'd raised him from a pup. Wherever we went, Prince went with us, except at night when Prince had to sleep in the doghouse and we went all inside to go to bed. Poor Brit, my mama always had a rule: no animals in the house. Not pets, no animals in the house. So Prince, he was with us for every minute of every day, all the time, except at night when we went to bed. But that night in the tent, he had got to sleep with us. And I looked over there when I was hearing all this stomping and snuffling and smacking noises, and I just knew them bears was going to eat us alive. They were. And I looked over, and there was Prince laying on his back in the middle of a nest of my baby sisters in their sleeping bags. Y'all, we were talking about little Prince heaven. He was laying there on his back, and his hind legs was twitching, and you could see a little smile on his face. He was chasing rabbits, and you could just tell from the way he was laying there, he was tickled to death to be in the midst of all his babies. For once, Prince had got to sleep with the babies that he loved and took care of all the time. And I knew, no matter what it was outside that tent, if it was something to be afeared of, that Prince, he would have tore that tent apart himself, and he would fight to the very death to protect us. And Prince was not barking or growling, or he was laying over there occasionally, barking or nipping in his sleep. So whatever it was, whatever was big, huge thing, it wasn't big enough or worrisome enough to wake up Prince. So I crawled over my baby sisters, trying not to wake them up. But by then they realized there was something going on in the tent, and they started waking up, and they heard the stomping and the snuffling noise. I'm like, just stay quiet. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. The whole time I was scared to death. I could feel the bile coming up in my throat. I get over there to the zipper of the tent, and I try to quietly open that tent. And there's no way to quietly open any zipper on any tent. Still hadn't been mauled. I probably was maybe safe, but I didn't know for sure. Still swallowing to try to, keep my supper from coming. I was still terrified. But I couldn't let on to my baby sisters. And I throw that tent flap back, and I lean out. It's the most beautiful sight I've ever seen. The moon was out. The fog had lifted just a little bit. It just kind of settled down in the valley. And we were up there on the mountain all by ourselves in an isolated world. Just us and the stars and the moonshine. And the cows from our dairy barn. They had found us in the middle on pasture hill. And they usually spent the night in the barn, but they knew there was something unusual going on that night, so they had come up the hill to see what was happening. And they were in a circle around our tent. On the prairie, the cattle, buffalo, herd animals, gazelles and so forth, they all get in a circle, and they put the babies in the middle to protect the calves. And there we were in the middle of the circle of cattle in our little brightly colored blue tent. And it made me realize that all those times that we had spent, breaking ice with a shovel handle to make sure the cows had water in the middle of winter, and feeding them and cleaning out the barn, and, washing them and taking care of them, and, all that time I thought that we were taking care of farm animals. We were taking care of the cows. We were taking care of the cattle. All that time, I thought we were taking care of him. And come to find out, the whole time, they had been taking care of us. There's my bedtime story. Y'all have a great night. And I think Eric and Tommy are going to take us home. Love y'all.